Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth, also known as the Continuum Chronicles. As always, I'm your host, Chris Kent, the Game Master, or GM for short. And today we're going to be talking about Dagda and Diana. That's kind of hard to say. That's kind of a tongue twister where I want to say the other one's name. You'll have to bear with me. At any rate, before we get into that, smash the like button, ring the bell so you know when I upload stuff, and make sure you're still subscribed. We've got a great community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so in our game, Dagda's an immortal who's gone by many names over the years. In their Germanic regions, they called him Beowulf. In Camelot, he was King Arthur. And in the days of Shakespeare, he was Oberon. All those names mean bear, by the way. Something interesting that we noticed is that in Celtic mythology, in the Dagda era, the Celts thought there was an island west of Ireland. They called it High Brazil, and it was supposedly shrouded in mists, hard to find, and even harder to get to. In the era of King Arthur, depending on which version of the tale you go with, when Arthur seems to die at the hands of Mordred, Morgan Le Fay, who seems to be a good guy at the time, by the way, takes the body of Arthur to an island west of Ireland that's shrouded in mists, that's hard to find, and even harder to get to. The Marston family, who created Wonder Woman, said that Wonder Woman and the Amazons lived on Paradise Island, which, as it turns out, is west of Ireland, shrouded in mist, hard to find, and even harder to get to. The Amazons also have their famous purple ray, which can heal just about any wound, and sometimes is said to even resurrect the dead. So we thought that was a pretty good fit for the King Arthur story. And Morgan Le Fay would seem to already know by then where Paradise Island was, and that there was even a purple ray there that could help Arthur. So then the question became, how long did Dagda and Morgan know about Paradise Island? So that's the story I thought I would share with you today. So, all of that said, let's dive in. The prologue takes place in the 6th century BC. The Eldar are still on Earth and are still known as the Tuatha De Danann. Because of their amazing abilities, most people on Earth refer to them as gods. It's hard to explain what an alien is to someone who doesn't even know what a planet is. When the Milesians arrived in Ireland, the Tuatha De Danann left and scattered, exploring the planet. So one day, Dagda and the Morrigan are sailing west of Europe towards North America. They pass through snowy peaks and through the mists of eternal youth. The Tuatha De Danann were created by the Old Ones to wage a war in the vacuum of space. And as such, they have sealed systems, which means the mists of eternal youth do not make them pass out. This does, however, mean that years from now, when they lose their powers, they still won't age. But I'm getting ahead of myself. So Dagda and Morgan arrive at Themyscira in their currach, which is a kind of Celtic boat. As Dagda drags their small ship up onto the beach, the Morgan asks if he's ever been here before. He says he hasn't. Morgan sees some white marble structures and says it must be a Roman colony of some sort. So they walk into town, into a Roman-style tavern called a taberna. Dagda sits in a dark corner with his brown hood pulled up. Most of his body is hidden under his brown cloak. Morgan is wearing a hooded cloak as well, and hers is black. She notices there are only women here, which suits her just fine. She pulls her hood down and orders a drink. The Amazon who brings her some wine has already drank quite a bit of wine. In fact, everybody here has already drank quite a bit of wine. So much so, none of them have noticed Dagda yet. As a brief aside, I should probably address the thing about men on Paradise Island. My favorite Wonder Woman animated movie features the voice of Nathan Fillion, Steve Trevor, who walks around on Themyscira and nothing bad happens to the Amazons. Conversely, in John Byrne's run of the Wonder Woman comic book, when a man steps foot on Paradise Island, the Amazons turn to stone. In yet another incarnation, the Amazons lose their powers if that happens. And recently, DC has retconned it yet again due to the newer gender theory on there being a spectrum. So DC now wants the Amazons to be inclusive, accepting anybody, no matter what category they might fall into. So, in terms of continuity, the issue of a man on Paradise Island has never been consistently handled by DC Comics. So, in our game, we felt like the easiest thing to do was to say it's a law. So, in our game world in the 6th century BC, it's against Amazonian law for any mortal man to literally set foot on Paradise Island. So, that being said, Dagda being here is an issue, and he just doesn't know it yet. Eventually, Diana walks into the taberna and notices Dagda. She's shocked to see him. And even more shocking is that she already knows who he is. Diana sits down with him and Morgan. Morgan, by the way, had both male and female lovers in Celtic mythology. So it's worth noting that Morgan thinks Diana is gorgeous. Morgan asks how Diana and Dagda know each other. Dagda explains that Brainiac 5 of the Legion of Superheroes likes to abduct famous heroes from history when they were teenagers. So Brainiac 5 brought he and Diana, and a bunch of other characters for that matter, to the 30th century to fight Darkseid. Morgan asks, what's a Darkseid? And before Dagda can explain, Diana interrupts, saying that doesn't matter right now, instead changing the focus to the fact that Dagda can't be here. Morgan gives Diana a sly smile and says, the fact no woman can resist Dagda, and this is an island of nothing but beautiful women, good luck getting him to leave. Diana tells Dagda he's in danger, and she pulls him outside. Morgan follows. Themyscira is very dark at night, and between the lack of light pollution and the island's remote location, the view of the stars is breathtaking. Diana's heart raced as she saw her first lover again after so many years. Dagda, with his rugged charm and mischievous grin, still held the keys to her heart. As much as I'm glad to see you, it's illegal for a man to set foot on Paradise Island, Diana said, her tone firm, but tinged with regret. Dagda's expression faltered for a moment. A flicker of disappointment crossed his features. I understand, Diana. I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I know, Diana replied softly, her heart aching at the sincerity in his words. But you have to leave. It's not safe for you here. Just then, a smile drew at the corners of Dagda's mouth, and he started to fly, ever so slightly, his feet hovering mere inches off of the Themysciran soil. You know, Diana, if the law is that no man can set foot on the island, then technically I'm obeying the law now. Diana couldn't help but chuckle at his cleverness, though a part of her still felt uneasy about bending the rules. You always did have a way with words, she says. Morgan saw all of this and, as always, acts sort of like a wingman to Dagda. So Morgan asks if she's allowed to be on Paradise Island, and Diana says all women are always allowed on Themyscira. So Morgan says she's going to have a look around and she'll catch up to them later. So Diana and Dagda fly back to Dagda's boat. And once he's in the boat, Diana starts to feel better about everything because he's technically not on the island anymore. The waves lapped against the boat's hull, a rhythmic melody that underscored the tension between two old flames. They sat facing each other, and the weight of their shared history was palpable in the air. Wonder Woman began, her voice soft yet filled with emotion. The chances of you winding up here at my home, this feels like fate. Dagda's gaze met hers, his expression reflecting a feeling of longing. Fate has a curious way of bringing us together, doesn't it? Wonder Woman reached out, her hand hesitating before gently resting on his. We were young when we last parted ways, she says. So much has changed since then. Dagda's hand covers hers. His touch is warm and familiar. And yet, in a way, it feels like yesterday, he says. She squeezed his hand, her eyes searching his for answers. What do we do now? She asked. Dagda sighed, a heavy burden evident in his features. I wish I had an easy answer for you, Diana, but I don't. Their gazes locked, silent understanding passed between them. In that moment, they were not heroes burdened with the weight of responsibility. They were just two souls grappling with the complexities of love. Wonder Woman spoke, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. What if the law only applies to mortal men? Dagda's gaze snapped to hers, a flicker of hope igniting in his eyes. What do you mean? She took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. As the Irish god of love, perhaps you're not bound by the same rules that govern mortal beings. Perhaps there's a loophole we've overlooked. Dagda's heart quickened with anticipation as he considered her words. You mean I could stay here with you? Wonder Woman nodded, her resolve unwavering. I will speak to my mother, Queen Hippolyta. I will plead our case and ask her to make an exception for you. A sense of relief washed over Dagda, his heart swelling with gratitude for the woman before him. The moon cast a silvery glow over the beach as Wonder Woman made her way towards her mother's palace, her heart heavy with anticipation and fear. She had to convince Queen Hippolyta to make an exception for Dagda, to allow him to stay on Paradise Island, despite the laws that forbade mortal men from setting foot there. Entering the grand halls of the palace, Princess Diana made her way to her mother's chambers, her heart heavy with the weight of her request. She found herself standing before the grand doors that led to Hippolyta's private quarters. Taking a deep breath to steady her nerves, she pushed open the doors and entered the opulent chambers beyond. The room was bathed in a warm glow. The flickering flames of torches cast shadows on the walls. Seated on a throne like chair adorned with intricate carvings and draped in silken fabrics, Queen Hippolyta was combing her long golden hair. Mother, Wonder Woman began, her voice filled with urgency, I must speak to you about something of grave importance. Queen Hippolyta regarded her daughter with a knowing gaze, sensing the weight of her words. What troubles you, my child? Wonder Woman took a deep breath, steeling herself for what she was about to reveal. Dagda, the love of my life, has returned to me, and it is fate, mother. I am sure of it. Queen Hippolyta's brow furrowed in concern, her mind racing with the implications of her daughter's declaration. Diana, you know the law. Men are forbidden from setting foot on Paradise Island. Wonder Woman nodded, her heart aching with the weight of their predicament. But what if there's a way to make an exception? What if fate has brought Dagda to us for a reason? Queen Hippolyta sighed, torn between her duty as queen and her love for her daughter. Diana, I understand your feelings, but I can't ignore the laws that have governed our island for centuries. They exist to protect us. Wonder Woman pleaded with her mother, her voice trembling with emotion. Please, mother, I beg of you. Dagd is not like other men. He's different. He's the Celtic god of love, and I'm sure he belongs here with me. Queen Hippolyta fell silent, her mind whirling with the possibilities. Could it be that fate had indeed intervened, bringing Dagda to them? What are the chances he could truly just end up here totally at random, if not fate? Wonder Woman's heart raced as she awaited her mother's response. her hopes hanging in the balance. Queen Hippolyta regarded her daughter with a mixture of love and concern, her mind grappling with the weight of the decision. After a moment of contemplation, Queen Hippolyta rose and approached her daughter, her expression softened by a mother's understanding. Diana, she began, her voice gentle yet resolute, I cannot ignore the laws that govern our island, but I also cannot deny the bond that exists between you and this man. Wonder Woman's heart leaped with anticipation, a glimmer of hope igniting within her chest. Therefore, Queen Hippolyta continued, I shall convene a council of our wisest elders to discuss the matter. We shall consider whether there is indeed a loophole in our laws that would allow Dagda to remain on Paradise Island. A sense of relief washed over Wonder Woman, her gratitude towards her mother overwhelming. Thank you, Mother, she said, her voice filled with emotion. I will forever be in your debt. Queen Hippolyta smiled, her love for her daughter shining in her eyes. Go, my child, and await the council's decision. Whatever the outcome, know that you have my support. Wonder Woman made her way to the secluded beach where the Dagda awaited her. Approaching Dagda, she stood in his boat. She offered him a reassuring smile. I spoke to my mother, she began, her voice soft and filled with hope. She has agreed to convene a council to discuss your presence here on Paradise Island. Dagda's eyes sparkled with hope as he regarded Diana, a sense of gratitude shining in his gaze. Thank you, he said. As the gentle waves rocked the small Celtic boat beneath the vast expanse of the starlit sky, Dagda was lounging upon a makeshift bed of soft animal skins and woven blankets. The boat itself was a simple yet sturdy vessel, crafted from rough hewn timber and bound together with sturdy ropes and sinew. In the dim light cast by the moon and the stars above, the interior of the boat took on a cozy warmth, the flickering glow of a small lantern casting dancing shadows against the wooden walls. The air was filled with the faint scent of sea salt and wildflowers, mingling with the musky aroma of the animal skins beneath them. Dagda patted the area next to him, and Diana crawled onto the bed beside him, her movements fluid and graceful. Dagda's presence beside her was a steady anchor in the swirling seas of emotions that threatened to engulf her. In the warmth of his embrace, Wonder Woman felt the tension in her muscles begin to melt away, placed by a profound sense of calm and contentment. As she lay there, her head resting against his chest, she allowed herself to simply be, to exist in this moment of quiet intimacy. Together they lay together, their breaths mingling in the cool night air. Under the starriest of nights, two wayward lovers reignited a once pale ember. The night passes. In the early hours of dawn, the small ship is gently nudged against the sands of Paradise Island. Its sails catch the soft sea breeze, filling them with life, as the first rays of sunshine strike Dagda and Diana, their tanned skin glistening from the salty sea air. They lay intertwined on the bed of animal hides. Diana's golden lasso gleams under the morning sun. Slowly, they wake up and see each other. Smiles dance upon their lips as they revel in the lingering warmth of their shared intimacy from the night before. As the morning sun casts its golden rays across the tranquil shores of Paradise Island, a figure emerged from the dense foliage lining the beach. Clad in the armor of an Amazonian guard, her demeanor was stern yet respectful. She approached Diana with purpose. Diana, Queen Hippolyta requests your presence in the Great Hall, the guard announced, her voice carrying a sense of urgency. Diana nodded, rising gracefully from the boat. She cast a reassuring glance at Dagda before turning to follow the guard, her mind racing with anticipation for the upcoming meeting. As they traversed the winding paths of Paradise Island, Diana couldn't shake the feeling of unease that lingered in the air. The prospect of convincing the higher-ups to allow Dagda to reside on the island filled her with trepidation. Upon reaching the majestic great hall, Diana found herself face to face with her mother, Queen Hippolyta, and a council of Amazonian elders. Their expressions were solemn yet contemplative as they awaited her plea. With resolve in her heart, Diana stepped forward, ready to advocate for Dagda's place among them. Esteemed members of the council, I come before you today to plead the case of Dagda, the Irish god of love, Diana began, her gaze unwavering as she spoke. While it is true that our sacred law prohibits the presence of mortal men on Paradise Island, we must consider the nature of Dagda's being. She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. Dagda is not a mortal man. He's a deity much like the male gods who've graced our shores in the past, Diana asserted, her tone firm and resolute. I need only remind you of the time when Mercury himself appeared on our island, his fleet presence welcomed without any objection from us. Murmurs rippled through the council chambers at Diana's mention of Mercury, the revered god known for his swiftness and agility, whose speed was gifted to Diana. We also welcomed Atlas with open arms, recognizing the value of his presence and the knowledge he shared, Diana continued, her voice growing stronger with each word. Surely, if we can extend our hospitality to male deities such as these, we can afford the same courtesy to Dagda, whose presence could enrich our island in ways we've yet to imagine. Diana's impassioned words resonated with conviction and sincerity. She held her breath, awaiting the council's response. Hopefully, they would see reason and grant Dagda the chance to call Paradise Island his home. As Diana's plea hung in the air of the great hall, the council deliberated amongst themselves in hushed tones. After a tense moment of discussion, Queen Hippolyta rose from her throne, her regal bearing commanding the attention of all present. Diana, while your words carry great weight, the council deems it necessary to hear from Dagda himself, Queen Hippolyta declared. We shall bring him before us, but under strict conditions, Queen Hippolyta continued. He will be brought in a chariot so as not to set foot upon sacred soil, and he will be accompanied by guards at all times. With the council's verdict delivered, preparations were swiftly made to summon Dagda to the great hall. As the sound of hoofbeats echoed through the island, a magnificent chariot, adorned with symbols of power and strength, emerged from the foliage, pulled by majestic horses guided by Amazonian warriors. As Dagda was escorted into the great hall in the grand chariot, a hush fell over the assembled council and guards. His presence seemed to radiate an energy that stirred something deep within the hearts of all who beheld him. The Amazons, who'd lived in isolation on Paradise Island for so long, found themselves captivated by Dagda's undeniable charm and charisma. Whispers of admiration and awe rippled through the chamber as they took in his handsome features and commanding presence. Queen Hippolyta, though regal and composed, could not deny the subtle flutter in her own heart. As she met Dagda's gaze, even she, a stalwart leader hardened by years of rule, felt the stirrings of something potent. Diana observed the reactions of her fellow Amazons with a mixture of amusement and apprehension. She knew all too well the power of Dagda's charm. She understood the potential implications it could have on the decision regarding his fate. As Dagda addressed the council with humility and sincerity, the Amazons found themselves drawn to him in ways they had never experienced before. Despite their reservations and the laws that governed their island, they could not resist the magnetic pull of his presence, nor ignore the longing in their hearts for the companionship and connection that Dagda represented. After much deliberation, the Council of Amazons, swayed by both the logic of Diana's arguments and the undeniable allure of Dagda's presence, reached a decision. With a majority vote, they chose to extend their hospitality to Dagda, granting him permission to reside on Paradise Island, where his love and wisdom could enrich their lives in ways they'd never imagined. As the sun set on another day on Paradise Island, the thoughts of the Amazons turned to the recent arrival of Dagda and Morrigan. Despite their initial concerns about Dagda's presence, It became clear that he posed no threat to their way of life. Instead, his unwavering dedication to love had endeared him to the hearts of many. Yet, as the goddess of war, it was Morrigan who seemed at odds with the peaceful ideals of Paradise Island. As the sun set over the ocean, Morrigan stood alone on the shore. For centuries, she had known only the relentless rhythm of battle, her existence defined by the clash of swords and the roar of war cries. But here, on the island of peace and tranquility, Morgan found herself lost in a sea of uncertainty. What purpose did she serve in a world devoid of conflict? What meaning could she find in a life untouched by the fires of war? As she gazed out across the shimmering waters, Morgan felt a flicker of something unfamiliar stirring within her heart. Was it longing? Regret? It was then that Diana approached her. You are not alone, Morgan, Diana said softly, her voice a soothing balm to Morgan's troubled soul. Here on Paradise Island, you are free to explore who you truly are. Morgan regarded Diana with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. With a heavy heart and a wary gaze, Morgan turned to face the horizon once more, her thoughts a whirlwind of uncertainty and possibility. But as she breathed in the salty air and felt the caress of the ocean breeze against her skin, Morgan felt her mind drifting back to the old ones, those ancient aliens who made the Tuatha De Danann to fight their war, a war long since forgotten by the majority of the cosmos. Morgan felt obsolete, and the woman who would one day be known as Morgan Le Fay found herself wondering what the future held. But that's a story for another time. That was it for this adventure. We had fun playing it. We hope you had fun hearing about it. If so, be sure to smash that like button, ring the bell so you know when I upload stuff. Make sure you're subscribed, and be sure to leave us a comment, as that really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.